Magnus is doing what Democrats do best, dodging the overwhelming evidence that shows what's happening on our southern border is indeed a crisis.
Do you believe we have a crisis at the southern border? Yes or no?
Senator, I'm not sure, does it really matter whether we call it a major challenge, a crisis, a big problem? I think
it speaks to a level of urgency and seriousness of purpose and an understanding of the gravity of the situation. I mean, presumably one would answer the call to serve in this position because you understand the importance at this moment in history of being commissioner of CBP.
So in other words, yes, Mr. Magnus, it really does matter. Joining me now, Executive Director and General Counsel at the Immigration Reform Law Institute, Dale Wilcox. Dale, how great is it that we're actually vetting him? He doesn't want to say crisis.
It's unbelievable. In 9 short months, the Biden administration has managed to destroy our immigration system. It's just amazing. Magnus is wholly unfit to lead Customs and Border Protection. But I'm not surprised Biden picked him because Magnus has a disdain and an animosity for federal immigration authorities. When he was Richmond, California chief of police and now Tucson, Arizona's chief of police, he's instituted sanctuary policies. Those policies don't allow state and local officers to work with federal immigration authorities. They let criminals run free in their communities. I mean, it's so bad that Magnus turned down hundreds of thousands of dollars in federal aid to his community because he would not cooperate with federal immigration authorities. And probably worst of all, and most ironic of all, he has been photographed when he was Richmond, California chief of police holding a Black Lives Matter sign. Yeah, that same Black Lives Matter that wants to defund the police. We do not need Magnus leading CBP.
Well, even when he's talking about we need technology on the border, what better technology is there than a wall? A wall stops any of this from coming, and yet the wall's laying down. We've paid for it. We're actually paying more not to build the wall. Even if he says, yeah, let's fill in some portions, the Biden administration's never going to let him do that.
Yeah, think about this. We saw this fiscal year, the most apprehensions of illegal aliens coming across the border in the history of Border Patrol, 1.7 million people. And they tell us that at least 400,000 were observed on cameras who got away that weren't apprehended. Did those cameras do us any good, except to know that there are 400,000 individuals in our country who we know nothing about?
And where are these people going? The children that are being released or flown all across the country. These people don't just disappear. Our country doesn't just absorb them. We're talking about millions of people. Who's paying for them to stay in the housing, pay for health care, child services, education? We're eventually going to see this coming to every single community.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And that's what's happening. In fact, I had a colleague just this week who flew from Atlanta to Wisconsin. And on that flight, an individual was sitting behind her in a seat that a standby passenger came on the flight to sit down. It was a ghost passenger. The airline didn't even know the passenger was there. And come to find out, this was one of those individuals that Biden is flying around the country in the dead of night. And they finally figured out the man was from Nicaragua. He just had a garbage bag of his belongings, and he had no identification. And my colleague stopped and asked the pilot, what are you doing allowing people on the plane with no identification? The pilot just said, I don't know. These individuals are being flown around to jurisdictions, communities all over the country. They're in our backyard now. And guess what? Taxpayers, you're paying for this.
Now, your organization did so much good defending the President Trump, when we were actually trying to just follow the law, build the wall, trying to do all those lawsuits, those terrible lawsuits that were filed against him in order to slow walk it. Now you're having to actually sue to get the Biden administration to follow the law. How is that going?
Oh, it's going very well. We are bringing additional lawsuits in Texas. Thank God for Texas. The attorney general there has been very aggressive in challenging the Biden administration. I have to give a shout out to Florida, Louisiana, Missouri, Arizona. These jurisdictions are not taking it. They know the harm that is being caused by just releasing people into our communities unvetted. We don't know who these people are. And in fact, the few people that have been tested, we have found out the administration has released at least 40,000 people who were positive for COVID-19 into our communities. No mandate there for a vaccine. They just released them into our communities.
It's so unbelievable, the double standard. American citizens, we're going to have less rights than these illegal immigrants do by the time they're done with it. Real quick, where do you think this is going? Do you think more states are going to try to get involved, as Texas is, to try to secure their own borders? Because the stories of people in those border communities, their property is being damaged, their livestock is being threatened or even let loose. What's going to happen to them?
You're absolutely right. And we have seen a corresponding increase in crime when jurisdictions stop cooperating with federal immigration authorities. We've seen it here where I'm at in the D.C. area. We've seen it in Maryland. We've seen it in North Carolina, communities all across the country. Our leaders need to take this seriously. And I would encourage your listeners, your viewers, to call your attorney generals in your state and say, you must get involved in these lawsuits.
You're so right. And the Attorney General of Texas has been so unbelievable in this. And it's been great to see some other states get involved. But every state needs to do it, even if you're not a border state, because at this point, every state is a border state because they're flying these people all throughout the country. Dale, thank you for the work that you're doing. Keep us posted on these lawsuits. And thank you for fighting to make America safe again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
God bless you.